مر الزمان تألقا وأضاء للدنيا طريقا مشرقا وهدى من الرحمن يهدينا به للصالحات وللمكارم والتقى هذا كتاب الله أعذب منهل أنعم به.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome back to the 19th part of this series, the 40 hadith pertaining to the virtues and the rulings of the Qur'an. In this episode we are going to look at a well-known hadith of Abdullah bin Mas'ud, which was reported in the Musn of Imam Ahmad. In this hadith he mentions that the Prophet ﷺ said that whenever a person is afflicted with sadness or grief and he recites the following dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove that sorrow and grief from him. And it's a fairly lengthy dua, but inshallah we will touch upon certain aspects of it. The dua begins with a statement of acknowledgement, that we acknowledge that we are slaves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma inni abduk, ibnu abdik, ibnu amatik. That, oh Allah, I am your slave, I am the son of your slave, and I am the son of your slave, meaning the male slave and female slave. Nasiyati biyadik, that my forelock lies in your hand. Madin fiyya hukmuk, and that your decision and your rulings with regards to me forever, they go on. Adlun fiyya qada'uk, and whatever you decree for me, then surely it is of a true and just nature. As'aluka bikulli ismin huwa lak, I ask and I call upon you according to every single name that you have. أو سميت به نفسك, or that you have called yourself with, or that you sent down in one of your scriptures, or that you taught anyone from amongst your creation, or that you preserved this knowledge and reserved it just for according to the knowledge of the unseen. I ask in all of this manner, and تجعل القرآن ربيع قلبي, that I ask that you make the Qur'an the spring of my heart, and ونور صدري, and the light of my chest, وجلاء همي, and according to another wording جلاء همي, وذهاب همي, and that you make the Qur'an the light of my heart, so the spring of my heart, the light of my chest, and the thing that removes my sorrow and removes my grief. Whoever says this, the Prophet said, then his sorrows and his grief will be taken away. And Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he said, أَلَا نَتَعَلَّمُهَا, should we not learn this? And the Prophet said, indeed, يَنْبَغِي لِمَنْ سَمِعَهَا أَنْ يَتَعَلَّمَهَا, that it's befitting that the one who hears this, then he really should learn this supplication. Now, in this supplication, we see how the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins with that acknowledgement and that recognition that he is a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's very important, that whenever we approach Allah in our ibadah and our supplications, we really stress upon this reality that we are slaves to Him and that we are in need of Him. The key point here in this dua though is the thing that makes or removes the stress and the sorrow is the Qur'an itself. It's the Qur'an itself. And the reason being is because the one who is really attached to the Qur'an and has Qur'an inside of him, then this person truly understands the transient nature of this worldly life. They understand and they can put all of the stresses and problems in life into perspective. And the one whose heart is connected to the Qur'an, his heart will naturally be connected to Allah and the Akhirah. So he will belittle any of the grief and the sorrows that he has in this life. But the person who has no Qur'an, then he will become overwhelmed with the worries and concern in this worldly life. And look how the Prophet beautifully described how this relief is to come about by making the Qur'an the spring of our hearts. Now what does it mean, Rabi' qalbi? The spring, why spring in particular? Some scholars said that spring here has been mentioned here because spring is a time of optimism. It's a time where people feel good and happy about themselves. Others said that if you look at springtime, then this is a time where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revives the dead land and barren land, where cultivation grows, where fruits and trees, they blossom at that time of the year. So likewise, a person's heart who is suffering from grief and anxiety and stress, then that heart It's similarly in a dead state as well, just like dead and barren land is. But when spring comes, life comes. And likewise, if you have the Qur'an in your heart, a spring will come forth, in a sense that cultivation, in terms of beauty, in terms of splendor, in terms of happiness, and in terms of relief from worries and concerns. And the one who does that, then it will be a light for him in his heart, and it will remove his ham and his gham and his worries and his concerns. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes the Qur'an the spring of our hearts and the light of our chest. Inshallah ta'ala, in the next episode we will look at how the Qur'an will be a light for the one who recites it. So tune in for that episode, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
الزمان تألقا وأضاء للدنيا طريقا مشرقا وهدى من الرحمن يهدينا به للصالحات وللمكارم والتقى نور على مر الزمان تألقا.